I thought I won the fight. It's a close fight. My opponent's very tough. I'm trying to...
In the heat of the Philippine sun, in boxing gyms where gloves smell of sweat and raw ambition, a young Manny Pacquiao learned to fight. He began boxing professionally in 1995 at a very low weight class, humbled by poverty yet burning with dreams. Tiny, fast, courageous, he began collecting wins, titles, attention. Every punch he threw, every decision he took in training nudged him toward legends. From the start, Pacquiao faced adversity, not just from opponents, but from expectations and the odds stacked against him. He moved through weight divisions, challenging himself against bigger, stronger opponents, gaining power and experience as he moved up. His style, speed, footwork, aggressive combinations would become his signature. But with every step up came harder competition, greater challenges, trilogies, and marquee battles. By the early 2000s, Pacquiao was no longer just a promising fighter. He was fighting the best. He exchanged blows with legends, fought Erik Morales 3 times, battled Juan Manuel Marquez repeatedly, in some fights edged out, in others victorious, tangled with Oscar de la Hoya, defeated Ricky Hatton and others. Each fight was a test, not only of strength or speed, but heart, strategy, will. He climbed through weight classes, collected titles in many divisions. He didn't shy away from dangerous fights. His record and reputation grew. Fast hands, relentless style, willingness to face risk. Yet even among all those brutal wars, he often reflected on which opponents pushed him the hardest, whose punches hurt him long after the bell. The hardest pound for pound, Miguel Cotto. In a setting where every accomplished boxer claims hard fights and painful nights, puncher he ever faced. Not merely because of raw power, but precision, timing, and the way those punches landed when he least expected, especially when he was trapped on the ropes. Pacquiao said, "I can still feel some of those punches he threw at me." Those words didn't come lightly, because judging by Pacquiao's career, the number of world champions, weight classes, big names, calling Cotto the hardest hitter means something. The fight in question was in 2009, Pacquiao versus Cotto. The welterweight titles were on the line. The stakes were high, the pressure immense. Pacquiao eventually won by the 12th round technical knockout. But the fight wasn't straightforward. Cotto's accuracy, body shots, consistent pressure, they made Pacquiao work. Not every punch was a knockout blow, but cumulatively, they wore at him. Staying on the ropes was dangerous. It tested his defense, his conditioning, mental endurance. That's the mark of a hard hitter, not just flash, but sustained threat. The blow that lasted versus Margarito. But power is one thing, toughness is another. Pacquiao also named Antonio Margarito as perhaps the hardest fight of his life. Not just because Margarito hit hard, but because the toughness, the body shots, the physicality pushed him to the edge. Pacquiao said that Margarito's punches were different, that after the fight he felt something. His body felt the punishment. And yet, despite Margarito's strength, spite of the pain, Pacquiao dominated most of the rounds and won a unanimous decision. The victory was clear, but the burn of what he endured lingered. It left its mark. Morales, Marquez, Hatton. Intermixed with Cotto and Margarito are the fights with Morales, Marquez, Hatton, etc. Each a chapter, each a war. Pacquiao has on several occasions said these were difficult, sometimes among the toughest. For example, his first fight with Erik Morales, March 2005, was one of these defining moments. It was his debut at super featherweight. He came in with a weight disadvantage slightly, and conditions, gloves contract, pre-fight blood test issues, hydration concerns, made it harder. He suffered a nasty cut over the right eye from a headbutt, which distracted him. He threw almost 900 punches, Morales around 700 plus. But in terms of landed punches, Morales had more. Pacquiao struggled with vision, discomfort, momentum shifts. Ultimately, the fighters pushed each other. Pacquiao lost that first bout by decision. Juan Manuel Marquez also stands out. Their bouts were tactical, filled with adjustments, knockdowns, near finishes. In particular, the first fight with Marquez had Pacquiao knocked down 3 times in round 1. Yet he fought back. That resilience, that moment of being hurt badly but not quitting, it shows the measure of both opponents. Hardest puncher refers to how much actual physical damage, shock, or intimidation a punch carries. How much it stuns, rattles, and forces defensive retreats. In Pacquiao's view, this title goes to Miguel Cotto. The accuracy, the body shots, the moments on the ropes, all added up to something Pacquiao didn't soon forget. Toughest opponent refers to the overall test: bad cut, adversity, strategy, stamina, psychological strain. That opponent may not hit the hardest, but the challenge is more rounded. Difficult conditions, being pushed to limits, danger in multiple dimensions. Pacquiao often names Margarito in this category. So when asked, who was the hardest opponent he ever faced? Pacquiao's answers oscillate depending on whether the question is about hardest punch, hardest fight, or most physically punishing moment. The toughest fight: Margarito versus Cotto versus Morales. In one particular interview, Pacquiao called Antonio Margarito the toughest fight of his career. Essentially, sports. Let's break down why that is. Margarito was naturally bigger, with a reputation for durability and heavy body shots. Pacquiao had to adjust more than usual. Take body shots, keep moving, be aware that Margarito's physique and stamina could turn the fight into a war of attrition. Yet, even in that toughest fight label, Pacquiao still acknowledged others as extremely difficult. Morales, Hatton, Marquez, all fought like warriors, all exacted wounds in more ways than one. Moments that defined toughest. Here are a few of those moments where adversity in the ring made the difference. Morales, first fight, 2005. A cut over the eye, tactical distance control by Morales. Pacquiao chasing but not always able to impose his style. The environment of the fight contract, gloves, hydration issues, also made him vulnerable. Even though he lost, the fight sharpened him. Pacquiao versus Cotto, 2009. The long war, body shots, accurate counters, staying on the ropes at times, being hit by punches whose effect lingered beyond the rounds. Pacquiao admits he can still feel those punches, something many fighters say only about a few opponents. Pacquiao versus Margarito. Not only the physical rigors, but also the psychological strain. Knowing what Margarito had done in previous fights, the fear of body shots, the possibility of being put away if mistakes were made. Pacquiao saying he was surprised to have survived doesn't mean he was defeated. He won, but the wording shows how close and painful it got. What makes an opponent tough? From Pacquiao's reflections, here are the elements that seem to define the toughest. Power plus accuracy. It's not just about hitting hard, it's about landing the right punches at the right time. Cotto had that. Margarito had that to an extent, for body damage and for threats that comped with style. Durability. Someone who doesn't fall easily, who takes punishment. Pacquiao respects fighters who keep coming, who remain dangerous even after absorbing punishment. Style complications. Whether it's a southpaw stance, strong counterpuncher, fighters who move you, ring craft. Morales, Marquez, Hatton, these weren't easy to figure out. Physical and psychological adversity, cuts, fatigue, fight conditions, weight issues, all add to what makes a fight tough. Not all of this is in the opponent, but the opponent's ability to exploit them matters. When all or many of those combine, the fight becomes toughest in more senses than one. Pacquiao's tough fights weren't always the ones where he lost. Sometimes, the toughest ones were where he had to grind through to win. Pacquiao's answer: a layered response. Given all that, what does Pacquiao ultimately say when asked, who was the toughest boxer you ever faced? For hardest puncher, he names Miguel Cotto. He still feels those punches, those shots on the ropes, accuracy, pain lingering. For toughest fight overall, he names Antonio Margarito, with the caveat that though he won, Margarito made him pay. He also gives respect to Morales, Marquez, Hatton, etc., for their own challenges. But those two names come out more frequently when he is being asked to pinpoint one. In his own words, Pacquiao has said any fight where he could barely breathe, where he had to adapt on the fly, where his opponent had moments of dominance, even if he eventually won. Those define toughest. Margarito fits that more than most. Cotto hits him in ways he still remembers. Imagining the fight from Pacquiao's perspective, picture the 2009 fight. Ringside lights, roaring crowd, the championship belt on the line. Pacquiao steps in, or picture the Margarito fight. Margarito, with brute strength, applying pressure, body shots that land with weight, pushing forward. Pacquiao, moving, angling, trying not to absorb too much, trying to respond, trying to stay out of the danger zones, especially the midsection, the body, the ropes. Fighting not only to win rounds, but to survive until the final bell. The toll shows not just in bruises, but in how you remember the fight afterwards. Lessons from Pacquiao's toughest. What do we learn beyond boxing? That toughness is multifaceted. Physical pain, mental stress, fearing that one mistake can change everything. That sometimes your proudest fights are those you barely survive. They define you more than the easy wins. That respect for one's opponents is deeply rooted in what they force you to become. More disciplined, resilient, smart. If we listen to Pacquiao's reflections, it's never about boasting. It's about gratitude for challenges, for fights that tested him, for opponents who forced him to be better. When asked who is the toughest, he doesn't speak of beating up less able opponents. He speaks of moments where the odds physically or mentally threatened to overwhelm him. Moments where winning meant paying a price. These are not empty words. They're testimony from a fighter who's walked through fire,